Hi, welcome to the video on the depiction of Fama in Aeneid book 4. It's quite famous. Book 4. Fama, of course, being a translation of the word for reputation or fame or some kind of rumor. I think rumor is probably the best one to translate here. But you'll see Virgil to kind of depict rumor as we know from the previous passage. Aeneas and Dido have ducked into a cave and they are quote-unquote married. And so, of course, word is going to start spreading at any moment at that point. So we will see how rumor spreads about their relationship in a metaphorical way via this monster called Fama. And I've depicted a couple things for you here. I think both of them are sketches from commentaries, but I'm not sure. On the first one, on the left there, you see a less hideous monster, just a very large monster. She's covered in ears and tongues and eyes, the sensory things that allow rumors to happen. Things that can see, that can hear, that can speak. Ears, of course, in there. So you'll see all of the various things covering Fama there. Notice again the horns are very important in that one as well, because she's telling the news of what's going on to the world. You also notice the size of her. She's apparently walking on the ground, but also her head goes all the way up into the clouds, so she's quite large. And the wings, of course, show the speed with which she moves. And then over here, if you were looking on this side of the screen, you'll see a much more grotesque image of Fama. And I think Virgil might not disagree with this one. But you'll note the wings both on her feet and on her back, noting the great speed with which Fama works. And you get a little bit more of the plot in here. There's Carthage back here. And then you see this guy, Iarbas, praying to Jupiter. Iarbas is probably the one most infuriated by the rumors because he was one who thought that Dido ought to have married him. And he's a good guy, so he's praying. He's pious, so he's praying to statues of Jupiter there, a certain kind of North African Jupiter. But you can see Fama here just like kind of grotesquely depicted. You can notice on her face she's got like a couple different ears there, so she does have like those features, and I think that those are eyes right there on her belt. So the artist didn't go as overboard with depicting her with many of the sensory organs, but certainly there are more than usual. This one actually kind of, you get more of the feathers idea. There are feathers, of course, in the passage as well. So I just think these are very interesting depictions of Fama, and they're kind of ones I want in your head as you read, so that you can kind of put a mental image with the text. So let's get started on the text, and we'll go from there. And again, we're starting right when Dido and Aeneas have ducked into a cave, and then the lightning was striking, and the nymphs were howling, and remember, Dido called it marriage, and she covered up the sin with that name from the previous passage, and so Dido's convinced that they're married now. Aeneas, probably not so much. He's just kind of taking advantage of the situation. And it's going to be awkward through book 4. That's one of the whole parts of this, is that they're never really on the same page of what this relationship is. But regardless of the nature of the relationship, Fama is going to be the subject of this passage here. Ex templo Libyae magna sit fama per urbes, Fama malum qua non aliud velocius ullum. I think it's very important that we draw arrows for this part here. You see magnas agreeing with urbes in the first line. Thankfully, we just have a subject and verb kind of squished there. And then Libyae being genitive, also going with urbes. The cities of Libya seems to make sense. So immediately, ex templo, immediately, Fama goes, it from eo ire, Fama goes through the great cities of Libya. Notice the preposition gets broken here. That's okay in epic poetry. And in poetry in general, you can, as long as the modification works, you can separate out those things in the preposition. It's not any kind of like bad grammar. It is simply artistry. Fama's repeated. This is not a new like use of fama. She simply repeated to emphasize. So Fama, malum qua non oleod velocius ollum. You get a very kind of difficult line here. We'll highlight things that agree just to make this a little bit easier. All those things right there that I've just highlighted, all four of those, are neuter and singular, okay? Which leaves us with qua, which is ablative singular. And we have to gap a verb because we are in a relative clause. Now, the only verb that you can regularly gap, unless there's an obvious one nearby that seems to go with it, is est. So we're going to use est here. But here's the thing about that ablative singular. It's nearby a comparative velocius. Velocius is that IUS that is the alternative to IOR in the neuter singular. And so you get an ablative of comparison. Notice we haven't translated the who or whom yet. That's because we have to do all this analysis before translating. Fama is clearly your antecedent. It's the only feminine singular thing before it other than Libya, and that doesn't seem to make sense. It seems like Virgil purposely wanted Fama right at the beginning of the sentence to make sure we didn't forget that. So, anyway, you translate the ablative of comparison as then, and so we're going to start our line with then whom. So Fama, then whom. It sounds odd. We don't really talk like that in English, but there it is. Then whom, and then we have to kind of translate these things. Non aliud ullum malum, all together. These are your subjects. Your subject complement will be velocius. Because to be is simply an equivalency, it doesn't actually matter in Latin what order you put things in. He's just simply equating the evil, then that no other one is swifter. The swifter one, no other evil is like it to them it's all one idea. And that means you can put them in any order. So if you're wondering how this would have been read, they are simply equating no other evil and being more swift in their heads. It is not a sense that you have to have it in the order of English. So, your translation, Fama, then whom, no other evil is swifter. You can also translate it very literally, Fama, then whom, not another, no other. It's hard to translate aliud and olam because they both kind of mean, not any other evil is swifter. There we go. All right, I like my first translation, so we're going with Fama, then whom no other evil is swifter. Aliud olam kind of combines into the no other. All right, so mobilitate we get vires que adquirit eundo. Sorry, it'd be more vires quad quiret eundo, because of the elision there. You get your nice ablative verb, and then ablative verb. Then you have an and. Vires is actually a long is. This is vires. This is very important. It does not mean men. This is from vis. Vis takes in vir in the plurals, and thus this is actually vires. So it's strength in the accusative. Adquirit's another verb, and then eundo is a beautiful word. See the nd there? You're dealing with a gerund here. It's got an o ending, so it's ablative. It actually is paralleling mobilitate. So it's the same ablative use as mobilitate. And you're like, wait, what verb is that from? Eu. That's from eo ire. When you have a weird combination of e's and i's and sometimes u's, it's probably from to go. Because there's no other root. It's just a couple little vowels. So, she is your subject, Fama. She thrives with movement. And she gains strength by going, or with going. Nice ablatives of means there. She thrives with mobility, with movement, and she acquires strength with going. two ablatives of means, mobilitate e no, bookending the line. Parva metu primo. One of the most common mistakes in this passage is to take parva with metu. They look like they would agree. They actually do not. Parva is actually modifying Fama, taking Fama through to the next line. She, small, with initial fear. Primo does agree with metu. Notice the masculine primo versus parva. Small at first with fear, or with first fear. So you can imagine how a rumor spreads. It's only a couple people. It's small at first, and people are afraid to tell anybody. Soon, mox, soon, sese atulitin aura. She lifts herself into the breezes, into the winds. Ingrediturque solo, and she walks upon the earth. There's a beautiful dative with a compound verb or an ablative location. I think that they can be interpreted either way, but since you have an in and then greditur, it's a compound verb. I always like to interpret those as datives when you get that compound verb. He walks upon the earth. And caput inter nubila condit. Caput is neuter, so we're actually going to make this accusative here because our subject's been the same the whole time. It's been Fama. And she establishes her head among the clouds. Inter nubila condit. Now, we're going to change our subject, and so we're going to use Fama as an accusative with ilam in the next line. So now we have her as a direct object and a new subject, terra parens. Ira in retata deorum. Extremam. Notice, extremam is going to agree with illam, which then also agrees with sororem, the sister. And so you get her mother, Mother Earth, terra parens, Mother Earth. Ira in retata deorum, with the anger of the gods having been provoked. Beautiful ablative absolute there. With the anger of the gods having been provoked. Mother Earth, you almost have to keep looking and looking for the verb. It's actually right here, progenuit. She bore that last sister to Koios and Enceladus. Those are other titans. You'll notice the dative of reference. She's a sister for them. In other words, from their perspective, she's a sister. But her mother is Mother Earth. Anywho. And you get more accusatives in the next line. Pedibus celerem et per nicibus alis. She is celerem. She is swift. Pedibus, which means in her feet. She's swift in her feet. And in her fluttering wings, pernicibus, her swift wings. Alis are wings. So we get her, she's swift in her feet and her fluttering wings. So rumor is going to spread quickly. It's kind of like ut perhibent, as they say. I'm sorry, I skipped that part. Ut perhibent, as they say. Mother Earth bore her as a final sister, I guess the youngest sister, to Koios and Enceladus. And she is swift in her feet and her fluttering wings, her swift wings, pernicibus alis. And then we get more description of Fama. Fama is a monstrum horrendum, a horrible monster. Ingens, huge. Cui quod sunt corpore plumae. So in this one, you're going to see quot tot. Quot tot is kind of the same as quantus tantus, which means like as much this, also this. So it's almost like there's the same amount of these as there are of these, okay? Because quot and tot have to do with amounts. So the other thing that is, before we translate, that's going on here is we have a dative kui, and we have a verb to be soon, so we actually have a dative of possession here. You can say for whom there are, that sounds fine, or you can say who has. I think that both work just fine. Okay, so who, the Fama is of course our subject still, who, or our referent, who has as many feathers on her body. Notice the ablative corpore, plumae is your nominative plural, who has as many feathers on her body as vigiles oculi subter, watchful eyes underneath, mirabile dictu, miraculous to say. In other words, Virgil is saying that, like, yeah, like it sounds crazy, but there it is. As many tongues, tot linguae. Totidem, the idem which means the same, so it's the same number of mouths resound, and the same, and she raises up as same number of ears, as many ears, and so you can say, like, with the feathers you get eyes, you get tongues, you get mouths, and you get ears, which is like all of the sensory things that rumors could use. They're ever watchful. They tell everybody everything. They hear everything. It's a monster that's built for her purpose, and her purpose is, of course, to spread rumors. Nocte volat caeli medio terraeque per umbram stridens, nec dulci declinat lumina somno. She flies at night. Nocte volat, she flies at night. Caeli medio, in the middle of the sky. Terraeque per umbram, through the dark of the land, through the shade of the land. Stridens, she's kind of just like rushing. Stridens means like rushing through the dark of the land. And then she does not lower her eyes with sweet sleep. In other words, she never sleeps. She never closes her eyes for any of that. So I'll stop there for a second, give you a chance to kind of catch up, rewind if you have to, push pause if you have to. But essentially you get this image of Fama that it's kind of a break from the story a little bit, but knowing that what the nature of rumors is in such situations where, like, the queen has kind of ducked into a cave with a foreign dude that just kind of landed on her beach, you can imagine the importance of rumor throughout the land on the story. And what effect it has on Dido. Not so much Aeneas, because he's a guy, and this is in the land of toxic masculinity, and also where guys are treated much differently than women, where he would probably just kind of laugh this off. Dido would be, of course, judged for the rest of her life, and so kind of that unfairness is very important, but. I think it's very important that you get the sense that Dido is, first of all, a horrendum monstrum, and that she's going to ruin Dido's reputation and all of this. Dido's, of course, I know that we kind of brushed over Dido a little quickly on her introduction, but she is a very well-respected queen before Aeneas, and then this is going to make her a bit more of a... not a laughingstock so much, but she's definitely going to tarnish that reputation that she's made for herself. She was kind of a strong, independent woman that everybody respected and was doing a great job. And this instance here of Fama is going to kind of ruin that. I'm sorry for digression, but it's very important. Luce sedat custos, aut summi culmine tecti turribus aut altis, et magnas atteritat urbes, tam ficti pravi quae tenax, quam nunti averi. Haec tu multiplici populus sermone replebat, gaudens, et pariter facta, atque in facta canebat. All right. So in the light, she sits on guard. She sits as a guardian, or on the highest point on the peak of the highest building, on towers or super high spaces, altis, or high spaces, and she terrifies great cities. And as we approach the next lines, we see Tom and Quam, as much this as this. As much a purveyor of falsehood and twisted thing. This is probably means like something distorted. So she's telling falsehoods. So much a purveyor of fiction and of a twisted story as a messenger of truth. In other words, like she tells truths and falsehoods equally. This is the nature of rumors. Haec tum multiplici populo sermone replebat gaudens. Happily, gaudens, rejoicing, she fills. By the way, she is the hike. This creature. She fills the people with a multifaceted story. Then tum, and sings equally things having been done and things not having been done. And so you get here the nail that solidifies what Fama does here for the last few lines here, making her a bit of a negative figure as she freaks out the cities, right? She terrifies great cities by telling falsehoods or truths, depending on what's going on, and nobody knows whether to believe her or not. But this is just how rumors go. I really like this depiction of rumor. And so I'll leave you with that. Do contact me if you have any questions, and I will hopefully see you later.